Welcome back to the Female Dating Strategy, the meanest female-only podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Diana.
And I am Savannah, and it is great to be back on the main podcast.
Yay! We're so happy to have you back.
It is. I am filling in for the lovely Rose, who is currently traveling and having a bit of a break at the moment. So, yeah, it's really good to be back on the main podcast and to be dissecting the shit show that is currently dating at the moment.
Can I just say, I remember when I first interviewed for the gig, I think it was you and I were recording, and it didn't hit me at that moment that I was recording with you because I was so used to listening to you on the podcast that you were speaking. And then I just had this big pregnant silent pause because I was like, wow, she's saying, she's making real points. And then you were just waiting expectantly for me, when is she going to say something? And I was like, whoops, it's still wild to think that I'm on this, but I find it so funny that I've spent years listening to you. It's crazy now to think of it that way.
It's really sweet of you to say that. And it's always so humbling, to hear that I invoke that reaction in people. And yeah, it has been, I think, about 4 years now, it's been a graft, but also the new episodes have been great. I still listen to the main podcast and I really like the way you and Rose have just taken the main podcast and run with it as well. So we put it in really good hands. It wasn't an easy podcast to hand over, especially because people associate the podcast, and rightfully so, because we were the first hosts with myself and Ro and Lilith. So it wasn't an easy role for you both to step into, but I think you've done it so well and you've just run with it, which is good.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. We love doing the podcast. It's definitely a highlight of my life now. I just enjoy being able to talk to women and just being so involved in this process. It's just been fun. I can imagine it was super fun for you guys as well. So
it was. I think you develop a special kind of bond with your podcast co-host. And I can tell that you and Rose have developed that as well. And it's really awesome to see, considering that you didn't know each other beforehand, just like me, Ro and Lilith. We didn't know each other before we started recording. So,
and I think that's the beauty of the community. I think it's so relieving to know that there are so many other women that feel the same way that you do. It's so isolating when you're in the process of dating and you're surrounded by bad advice, and sometimes you're surrounded by bad friends and bad company, bad family that will encourage you to be in destructive patterns. And then having that one space on the internet where people were talking sense, I was like, oh my God, finally. You feel like you're in, I don't know, some pod culture. So you're in the Matrix. You know what I mean? You're in this strange world that is alien, and then you have people talking and making sense, and you're like, oh my God, okay, so thank God it's not just me. I was really isolated in my way of thinking and being like, isn't this just common sense? But it turns out that there's actually quite a few women that think like me. And so that's always really relieving to know.
Yeah, I mean, the internet has done a lot of things wrong, but I think one of the things that it's definitely got right is that women now have places where we can talk about things like dating and our experiences with men, and we don't have to feel so isolated and alone. And we don't have to internalize the actions of a single man, because we know that it is part of a wider structure. It's part of a wider inequality that transcends each of us.
Yep. And it's so easy to take the blame and just be like, this is entirely my fault. And it's something I did, the way I look, the environment, I'm doing something wrong. I'm the reason why I don't have a good relationship is a very messed up place to be. It's so easy to take blame and be like, I'm the one to blame for this structural issue. And that's a big part of the reason I think men have prevented us from sharing notes. That's why I also think that FDS faced so much pushback on Reddit, because I think they knew that if all of us are, in their eyes, colluding with each other and talking about these issues, we're going to come to realize there's a pattern of behavior here that they're intentional. It's malicious. It's not benign. It's not something they're doing by accident. It's very intentional.
Exactly. So we talk a lot about vetting and how to do that, and that is really important. And that, I think, is what actually set FDS apart, is that we came with the strategy element, especially when it comes to men, right? When you just complain at men, they don't process it the same way that we as women do. I think that women, when we try to appeal to men's better nature, we see it as, I'm trying to make this man's life better. I'm trying to make us happier. He just sees it as you're just nagging, right? So FDS was sort of like, we'll say no to that. Just start basically cutting these men out. If they're not performing the way you want them to perform, if they're not coming correct the first time, just cut them out. And that was why FDS, I think, was such a target on Reddit. It is why, even before this podcast was released, they tried to get it shut down. And other, I guess, more lib fem spaces, the ones that write think pieces about how shit toxic masculinity is, but they don't really want to offend men too much. And they say, not all men also out to soften the blow. Those sorts of places, they're allowed to continue because ultimately men don't see that as a threat. But when a woman makes a plan and that plan excludes men, that's like when they begin to panic.
Yep. It's pink patriarchy. The only reason they allowed them there is because they're pandering to men in some way. And it helps men so much because I think at the end of the day, I think we've just been conditioned to respect men in a way that they don't respect us.
And in a way that they don't deserve.
Yeah. I mean, they don't deserve it, but they don't do it back either. So it's like we're foregoing respect for love because we've been told that love is a loftier goal and that it's okay to put up with disrespect because you're going to get love out of it and love is so much more meaningful. And so I think a lot of women put up with disrespect because they're like, yeah, but what we have is love and isn't that more meaningful? But you will never meet a man who will trade respect for love ever.
It's better to be respected than loved, to be honest.
Yeah. And it's in the way they treat each other, right? Like whenever a man is disrespectful to me and like disrespectful of my time, I always think, would he do this to a man he respects? Probably no. Never.
No,
Yeah. He would never do this to his boss. He wouldn't even do this to his deadbeat dad. You know what I mean? He wouldn't do it even to him. So
because like they reserve all the smoke they should have directed to their deadbeat dysfunctional father, they direct it to their mother who stayed. So
exactly. And they're disrespectful to the woman who actually loved them unconditionally. Like all men say they want is unconditional love. And the one person who gives them that love is a person they disrespect above all else.
this makes no sense.
So this week we want to unpack emotional maturity because we think that this is the core of any functional relationship.
Yes.
And we want to be able to understand it, recognize when you have a lack of it. And Savannah, do you want to take it away?
Yes, 100%. So emotional maturity is the foundation of any functional relationship. And it's not, again, it's not something that women are taught to look out for when they're vetting for a man. We talk about high value and is he respectful? Can he provide and all that stuff? It is all well and good. But emotional maturity is a big one. And it's not only emotional maturity in the men that you're vetting, but it's also emotional maturity in yourself. I think a lot of the times when women internalize the actions or the shitty actions of the men that they're with or the men that they've been with, it stems from an underdeveloped sense of emotional maturity because emotional maturity is ultimately the ability to identify and to regulate your own emotions. And women, especially, we are taught to become enmeshed emotionally with men from quite a young age because ultimately we're taught, if you look at Disney, right? If we look at Disney, we see the princesses. So, I mean, I love the cartoon and I actually quite enjoy the live action. I love watching it at home, but it's just the biggest bunch of bullshit in terms of emotional, like, in terms of abusive relationships and emotional enmeshment between Belle and the Beast, right? So it's the ability to regulate your own emotions and also to recognize and to separate your emotions from that of your partner as well. And it's quite a difficult thing to do because, again, we're not taught how to do it or how to identify it or how to develop it.
It's interesting you bring up Beauty and the Beast because we talk about the Beast a lot and we forget that there's like another toxic male figure in that film, which is Gaston. And I always think about him because
Oh,
I think
yeah.
there's a lot of men who are like him, who specifically see women as trophies. Because, like, the thing is, it's not like he can't get any woman he wants in that village. Like, people put him on a pedestal. But he specifically wants Belle because she's a prize in his eyes. He doesn't even really care to relate to her. It's about what she represents. And I think when we see a lot of men in our lives, a lot of them approach relationships that way. They think about what marriage can do for them, what women can do for them. They're not really concerned with that person's rich inner world, their lives, whether they're even attracted to you. They're like, well, he even says it in the song. He's like, I am the best. Don't I deserve the best? And like a lot of men have that attitude. A lot of men think they're the best.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true as well. And when you say that, it sort of brought me back to when a lot of times, especially if they deem a woman to be unattainable, which is what Gaston deems Belle to be, because she doesn't swoon over him. She's clearly very smart. She likes her books and she's not available to him, right? It sort of makes them think that I have to attain her, but they don't want to contain her, as in like they don't want to protect her, even like her or even love her. They just want to say, "Oh, well, I got her." Because it would have been as clear as day if there was a Gaston and a Belle relationship that the minute she agreed to be his girlfriend or his wife, he would have been treating her like shit.
Exactly. And I think one of the things about emotional maturity is it's a lot about how deeply you know yourself. A lot of men just don't know themselves. And I mean, I wish I could say it's just specific to men, but I think like a lot of our early childhood informs the way that we meet ourselves and whether we're like our development is stuck at like a teenage mindset for a lot of us because a lot of us stay stuck in high school in terms of how much we value male validation and it never really progresses beyond that. And Lindsay Gibson, one of the books, I don't know if we've recommended this on the podcast, but she's like an amazing writer. She wrote the book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And I really recommend this book for people who are trying to undo their family wounds, especially if you grew up in a negligent family where the only way that you could get attention from your dad or your mom was by performing, by being the best. I think a lot of women are conditioned to think that in order to be loved, they need to be needed and they need to be useful. And so a lot of women are in this performance audition thing of like, I need to audition for a man. I need to prove my usefulness to him because that's the only way I'll be worthy of love. And I think the core of that is why a lot of women are upset with our advice for the money thing, the 50-50 thing. You know what I mean? Like they feel uncomfortable taking money from men for this fundamental reason because they're like, well, I haven't earned it. I should earn it. I need to earn every last ounce of affection from a man because that's how I was conditioned. I was conditioned to think that I'm only lovable if I'm useful. Which is funny because men make this shit up a lot. They say that that's how they feel. Like, oh, a man is not, nobody will buy a man flowers and
Oh, please.
you're not loved until you're bringing money. I find this like such BS. Like, I always think my dad had such a good relationship with his hairdressers because he used to go to the salon like and do his hair all the time. And let me tell you, that man was with never without flowers. Like his birthday, I never got flowers. Okay, nobody sent me flowers. They sent my dad a shit ton of flowers. Like all the businesses he frequented, like all the people he met. Like he, if you're a well loved man who treats people well, I'm sorry, you got. It's a skills issue. Okay, if you're not getting flowers, it's because you're abominable. And also, if it's that fucking important to you, why would you not bring it up? You know what I mean? If getting flowers is so important to you as a human being, you would think you would mention it to someone. Like men will say, oh, we're not allowed to have feelings. We're not allowed to feel our feelings. You're not allowed to kill and maim women either, but that hasn't stopped you.
And also, apathy is a feeling, like anger is a feeling. Feeling like you want to string a woman along or waste her time because you know that she wants marriage and kids and you don't, but you don't have the balls to say that outright because you'll lose the wife benefits. That is a feeling.
Yep. And I think there's like, I've seen a lot of patterns with emotionally immature people in general, massive insecurity. One of the biggest things, I think the biggest red flag that people need to look out for in people who lack emotional maturity is this victim complex. A lot of people who are stuck in a victim mindset, they tend to be emotionally immature. Like if the whole world is against them, they tend to have a pattern of like not having long lasting friendships and relationships. They're always beefing with someone. This is a person who like after a point the common denominator is you. You know what I mean? If you're always the person who is at the scene of the crime, there has to be there has to be a reason for that. Like men who are always in a like, and this is why also I think women just find this shit really unattractive. The whole victim mindset of like, woe is me, my mental health. I don't know. I've never fallen for it, and I just find it icky. Like when men bring this up.
I've never fallen for it either. And it's like when, I don't know about you, Diana, but whenever a guy approached me and early on he started going down the sob story road. And I think even like Gavin DeBecker, that he even said that if a guy approaches you with basically a sob story, he's trying to manipulate you. He knows what he's doing. He's trying to prey on your empathy and your sense of justice as a woman in order to break down your defenses and make you think, oh, he's just down on his luck, he's poor. And every single time a guy has done that to me, the relationship has never ended well. Like it's either, and not necessarily in the sense that we dated and it ended, but more like I saw that he was trying to manipulate me. He was trying to get money out of me. He was trying to get something out of me that wasn't a deep relationship 100% of the time.
And what usually winds up happening is you end up feeling taken for granted because no matter how nice you are and how agreeable you are, you want to help them. Obviously he's down on his luck and you want to make him feel better because you love him or whatever. You always end up feeling like you got the short end of the stick because women need to understand how hard it is for you to make money. You need to understand how hard it is for you to move in the world and how much it takes for you to get the same things that men get for like a fraction of the effort. I think a lot of women are especially if you're in a more developed country, I think it's very easy to be like, well, we live in a much more egalitarian society, so maybe I should play ball and maybe I shouldn't have such a hard line stance on this. And like, no, it doesn't change the actual circumstance of the situation because women, like the level of empathy that they apply to men, they need to understand that no man would ever apply that empathy to you. Like no matter how nice you think this guy is, he would not exchange lives. Like he would not trade lives with you, and he would not treat you the same way. He would not have a fraction of the empathy you have for him in the same way because he recognizes that it's to his benefit. Like people always ask, why is it so easy for men to marry women that they hate? And it's because it's easier to extract labor from someone you don't like because you don't give a shit. It's much harder to manipulate and take advantage of someone you actually like.
That you actually like. And I saw that play out when I was involved in the BDSM community. And oftentimes guys would say they would practice BDSM on women that they were casual with or casual play partners, but they can never bring themselves to be violent towards women they were in relationships with or women that they cared about. And that was really telling, really telling. And it just goes to show what you said as well.
And we wanted to talk today a little bit to people because we think that as much as we talk about the faults with men, I do think that there is an accountability issue with women as well. And we do want to talk about like signs that you're emotionally immature because that might be holding you back from forming connections with people. If you have an inability to regulate your emotions, if you have undiagnosed trauma of some kind, or you're in denial about certain wounds in your life, if you tend to have a lot of relationships or friendships that tend to keep blowing up, it's time that you examine yourself too. And I think a lot of women have like this, it's so easy. We need to stop being like men in the sense that we need to outsource all of our problems and blame everything on an external source. You know what I mean? I don't know which book I read this in, but it's like women are internalizers and men are externalizers. Like when something goes wrong with a man, they blame it on the outside world, their environment, the circumstances, etc. But when women fuck up, they tend to blame themselves. And this isn't to be like take all the blame. Of course, it takes two to tango. But I think it's sometimes really important to have an emotionally immature person is someone who does not lack introspection. They're going to look at their own lives and be like, how do I have a hand in my own downfall? How am I self-sabotaging and how am I preventing myself from having a life that I want to live?
I mean, 100%. And I think that when we first really took off, it was interesting that a good amount of the pushback that we got actually came from other women because they felt that we were victim blaming or we were letting men off the hook or because like FDS has always been grounded in accountability. Like one of the most common misconceptions about FDS is that we just encourage you all to just sit back and just be whatever you want to be and a high value man will land in your lap. That's not the case at all. We've always said it's important for you to level up, both physically, mentally, financially, emotionally, so that you can meet men on that level. When we talk about dating levels, in Nigeria, there's a saying that you need to date on your level. And what that means is that if you are an emotionally mature person or you're looking for an emotionally mature partner, if you yourself are not at that stage, not only will you repel them, but you will also not recognize that quality in other people because you don't have it yourself. And because somebody who is emotionally mature and grounded, they will call you out on your bullshit. And my sister always says that she's been married to her husband for almost 10 years now. And she always says that marriage is like a high definition like mirror that can sometimes be shining a light or reflecting back your faults, right? If you are not in a space where you can take accountability, understanding the impact that your decisions have had on your life and the lives of other people, you will not be able to recognize a man who is emotionally mature, because they will call you out on your bullshit. They're not just going to allow you to just play the victim all the time because that will be repulsive to them.
And with an emotionally mature man, I feel like in general, my principle is you can't change anyone, but a man can definitely make you worse. You could be the most,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't change him, but he could definitely change you. You might be like the most, and they tend to target women who have their shit together as well. You know what I mean? They tend to target women who are independent and industrious.
It's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fetish to cut them down to size. And so they'll go after women who have ambitions and who have dreams, and then they'll like cut you off at the like finger by finger, limb by limb, until you're a shell of your former self. Like, it's definitely possible. That's why who you like, your company is so important. Like, who you spend your time with is really important. If you're a person who's looking for like optimism and you want to build and grow in life, and you surround yourself with people who are extremely pessimistic, and they call that real, like being realistic. Like, see, being realistic is really important. But when it comes to, I always feel like your dreams should be bigger than your feelings about your ability to achieve them. You know what I mean? Because like the bigger they are, the more you're actually going to strive for them. If you always play in the realm of safe and reliable and realistic, you never really get that far. And using that logic, if you're like, well, realistically, it's not possible for me to imagine a secure, functional relationship where my boyfriend treats me well, and I'm spoiled and I'm pampered and I have everything I want in life, and he respects me and he supports my ambitions, and he's a supportive partner who does everything he needs to do at home, blah, blah, blah. You can have all of those things and then still be let down by the fact that you have a negative mindset. You know what I mean? And that you don't believe that you deserve better. So cultivating emotional maturity is important in the sense that it's not about striving for perfection. It's about recognizing that you have flaws, but also that you're actively working on them, that you have the ability to be accountable to yourself, that you have the ability to hold your partner accountable without fear. A lot of women, they fear criticizing men as well. Like, they're like, oh, he won't like me as much if I criticize him, or he'll think I'm a nag, or he'll want to leave me, or whatever. Like, women really, like, this is what we mean when we say decentral men. You really need to stop fearing what will happen if a bad man leaves you. Because nothing happens. You lose nothing.
You lose nothing apart from his dead weight. And I often find that when we talk about accountability, because men love saying women aren't accountable, women aren't accountable. And to be fair, to some degree, I agree. I feel like women are bad at being accountable to themselves, in the sense that we struggle to make decisions that are in our best interests. Whereas like men struggle with accountability to other people. So the most loyal man you'll find, the most accountable man, is often accountable and loyal to himself. Like, men, they don't mess about with accountability and loyalty when it comes to them and their interests and what they deem important, right? But when it comes to people that they love, especially women, that's when the accountability and loyalty and consistency disappears. For women, I think we have the opposite problem. I think we are very good at being accountable and feeling responsible for other people's crap, especially men. But when it comes to making decisions in our interest, putting ourselves first, seeing if relationships or situations or people actually align with what we want and who we are and who we want to be, that's where we fall short.
And I think there needs to be a distinction that's made between criticism and just being a hater, because I think a lot of people thought in FDS, like when we gave women solid feedback and criticism, that it's like, oh, you're being a hater. You don't understand my love with Bradley. And it's like, no, you need to be able to understand the difference between someone giving you constructive criticism versus someone being a hater. Like, to give you an example, like I have a friend who's moving recently, and she spoke to another friend about the move, and the friend was like, well, what if you don't get a job? And I was like, look, that's a very weirdly unrealistic thing. That's a strange thing to say to a person. Like, if you tell your friend that you're moving and you're excited about a move, and the first thing she says is, well, what if you don't get a job? Like, it would be like me saying, if she got on a plane, like, well, what if the plane crashes? You know what I mean? We know that there's a possibility that might not happen. But the fact that you choose to fixate on the negative first says a lot about that friendship, because she's not being supportive of you in that moment. Like, it's also a very irrational thing to talk about. It's not being constructive, right? When you're being constructive with someone, it's addressing the root cause of an issue and being like, listen, this is a thing you need to fix, because I don't think that you're like, and also you need to be able to be free enough to say that to your friends, your siblings, your family. You know what I mean? Like, I think that this is going to lead you to a path that is not going to bring you much happiness, versus straight up not validating somebody else's choices. Because sometimes when I make a choice, for example, people don't agree with me, it's still my choice at the end of the day. You know what I mean? I'm not opening this up to the table for a vote.
It isn't a referendum, is it?
It's not a referendum, yeah. But I think that some women, and I have to say this, emotionally immature people see any kind of constructive criticism as a personal attack. So this is something you need to watch out for with other people. They get very defensive if you seem even slightly critical about anything. If, like, for example, she's telling you, "Oh, I'm gonna have a baby with this guy. We're not married. We're gonna move in together," and you're like, "Is that the best idea for you, considering you mentioned you never wanted to have children, and he doesn't seem that invested in being a father?" Now, am I being a hater, or am I pointing out that might not result in the kind of life that you want? You need to be able to discern the difference between the two. If someone comes up with something totally random and says it like how this person did, in the sense of like, "Oh, but what if you don't get a job?" Yes, of course. I mean, we live in a horrible economy right now. You cannot get a job in any country. I don't think I've heard a single country in the last 3 years where it's like, "Oh my God, it's a great place to find a job. You have to come to Indonesia. It's wonderful here. It's so easy to find a job and make money." It's like, no, almost every single person I talk to, no matter where they are in the world, is telling you that it's a shit time to find a job. So when you are sharing, like, pay attention to your friends. Like, when you share positive updates in your life, are they happy for you or are they critical? Right? But if you're and again, learn to discern the difference, because it's like, "Oh, I'm happy about moving in with my boyfriend who's going to make me split 50-50." That friend may not be happy for you because she can see you're falling into a trap. And this is where emotional maturity is really important. You need to be emotionally mature to understand the difference between someone offering legitimate criticism and someone being a hater. But in my experience, emotionally immature people in general, no matter what you say to them, they see it as an attack, which is why so many women got defensive on the forum as well. So many women are like, "Why are you attacking me? Like, I just don't want, what's so bad about going on a walk date?"
And this is the thing as well. Like, I see this also in other women only forums, and it sort of ties into what you said, in that emotionally mature people, they have a strong sense of self, right? So they know that if people disagree or live their life differently, that doesn't mean that they're wrong, or that their choices mean that they're unhappy. They just understand that's their path, right? And I find it interesting in the context of, if, because as you all know, I'm on the Are We Dating the Same Guy groups in my area. If a woman says, "I want a man to be a provider," you get the pick me's coming out of the woodwork saying that she's being unrealistic, equality, like you should pay your way, like if a guy's paying for everything, he's been abusive or whatever. And I sit there thinking, if you were genuinely happy with your 50-50 or 60-40 or 70-30 arrange, or whatever you've got going on, then you wouldn't feel threatened if a woman wants something different, because deep down that this is, that's your life and you're happy with what you've done. But what it often brings to the fore, and I think this is why FDS got this, part of the reason why FDS does and gets a lot of backlash from women, or really any woman in the dating space who talks about women having higher standards, is that what it does is that it reminds women that they've settled. And rather than sit with that discomfort and or do something about it, they take out on other women saying, "You're materialistic, you're being unrealistic. High equality. You can't expect equality and expect a man to pay for you." And all that is just their insecurity and their poor sense of self and their low self-esteem just telling them that they've settled, basically. And as opposed to taking it out on the man that they've settled with, or changing their situation, or demanding better for themselves, it's easier to take it out on the women who actually demand and get better for themselves.
Yeah. Because I think they've also normalized a level of chaos in their life, right? And so they don't want to believe that you can actually have a peaceful life with a man who looks after you and get some joy from doing
And
that.
doesn't treat you like shit. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're genuinely shocked that there's a man out there who loves you enough and likes you enough to support you, your visions, your dreams, wants to invest in you. Like, they think that's like unrealistic. And oh my God, speaking of the materialist movie, oh geez, the broke man propaganda that's out to get us all. Uh, like movies like that. One thing that I have to say, like, it's called Materialist. It's the new movie with Pedro Pascal and Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans. Yeah, Chris Evans. Oh my God, it's garbage. But it's the same broke man propaganda of like this hyper successful woman ends up like giving up her job to go live with her out of work actor boyfriend who's in his 40s. Like, they like share a home together. And it's like, this is what I mean by, like, you need to first of all cut off Hollywood. I think the first breakup that women need to do is break up with Hollywood. Okay. Break up with Hollywood first, because they are fucking you over. And I've heard so many celebrity women like Kiki Palmer and stuff, who are like, well, when you have money, it's not that important, and like I don't really need a man who's gonna bring money in my life because I have enough. And like, but do you want to live that woman's life? Like Kiki Palmer is not a person whose life you'd want to emulate. For not having any standards at all, she ended up becoming a victim of domestic abuse. Like, you need to stop seeing what women say and you need to start seeing how their lives pan out by the choices that they make.
Yes, exactly.
That's what you need to pay attention to, because the truth is, if you've worked hard for your money and you are now in a position where you're financially stable, you're only one or two calamities away from being right back where you started. And one of the biggest calamities is men. I don't take it for granted that I'm in a financial position right now where I can go after my goals with abandon. I don't have to worry about, like, I have a cushion. Most women don't have that cushion. And a lot of women rely on men for that cushion, which is a bad idea. It's one thing that he's investing in you, but you should always invest in yourself. Having your own finances is always important. We always say that in this. Like, part of being able to be emotionally mature is to not put yourself in a position where you get into a zone of desperation. If you grew up in a family where resources were tight, you didn't have money, it's possible that you have wounds around money. And you need to be really careful about being with men that trigger those money wounds.
100%. And also,
You have to disregard rich women who are like, well, I'm rich and I don't really need my man to be rich. Because again, what are their actual relationships, right? Are they being respected in those relationships? Are they actually being treated well in those relationships? Like, ignore what they say and watch how their lives pan out. And that should tell you everything.
I'll just say Mackenzie Bezos, she remarried a science teacher. 2 years later, they were divorced. So I don't know why they got divorced, but yeah, it doesn't always pan out that way to go for somebody who is quite significantly, I'd say, out of your tax bracket. But that's an aside.
Yep. And it's relative as well. Because I mean, look at like Jeff Bezos just got married today, didn't he? To Lauren Sanchez, or I forgot her name. Yeah, I think that's her name. I think she's a woman who's got her own money. I don't know. I think she
Yeah,
is.
she's very wealthy, independently wealthy. Yeah.
Yeah, she might not be as rich as a billionaire, but she's got money to walk out if she wants to. And that's really important, is to have a financial cushion or a financial ability to leave. You might not think it's important at the beginning of the relationship when you're like deep in the honeymoon stage and it's like, oh, he could never do those things to me. But like, the man you divorce is very different from the man you marry.
Or the man that you leave. It's not even divorce. Like, the man you leave is very different from the man that you got into the relationship with.
That's why I never forgo respect for love, because we can be respectful to each other even at the termination of a relationship. When it's only about love, I feel like sometimes men are like, oh, I don't need to respect you the second I have no control over you. And so, like, the way that they behave with you post marriage, it says a lot. So, I mean, part of, again, like, when we talk about emotional maturity, it's like, you need to stop seeing people for who they are in that moment and see them for their patterns and what they represent in life overall, right? Does this person show you that they're capable of growing, that they have like this growth mindset, that they've made positive changes in their life, they've worked on individual issues in their life, and they've actually succeeded in overcoming some of those things? Like, those are really important, because you need to be doing that, they need to be doing that as well, right? It's not about like, oh, like, I think a lot of people are just looking at it from a position of trauma bonds. Like, he and I have very similar traumas, and that's why we're together, because we both understand each other. And it's like, I'm gonna put out a controversial take here. I don't give a hoot about understanding. Understanding means nothing without action to me. I don't care about understanding his pain if it doesn't come with action. Oh, my dad left me, and that's why I don't celebrate your birthday. I don't give a shit about that. I don't give a shit about that.
But it's true. Again, an emotionally mature person, they know how to separate, as my therapist says. That's their shit. That's not your shit to carry. Like, that is something that they need to deal with in a way that doesn't impact you.
Are they even aware of their shit? You know what I mean? A lot of men have a resistance to acknowledging that they even have shit. Like, they'll tell you the most casually traumatic thing that ever happened and be like, oh, it's no biggie. And I'm telling you, like, those people are usually, it's like a mask. They're covering up some deeper things that they're not acknowledging, and they expect you to do the emotional labor for them. And if you're not always performing that level of emotional labor for them, which is draining, it's draining to work on somebody else's shit as well. No matter, that's what I'm saying, like, no matter how empathetic you think you are as a person, there is a wall that you will hit as well. Because the more empathetic and emotional you are, the more likely you are to be taken advantage of. And even if you're a person who can put up with 1 or 2 or 3 years of bullshit, eventually even you will hit, like, it's just a waste of your time. Like, how much do you value your time? How much do you value your own development as a person? I think we always put these things last, and I think they should be the first things we think about.
Agreed. In terms of emotional maturity as a concept, I would say that and we've covered quite a bit in these episodes, but I'd say there are five key elements. And I will also discuss the ways in which you can develop each and the ways that you can vet for each one. So the first one is self-awareness. So self-awareness, you need to recognize your own. It's about recognizing your emotions, your thoughts, and behavior patterns, understanding where they've come from. So if that's come from childhood or another experience or a bad relationship experience or whatever, and then understanding the impact that has on other people. And I will say that self awareness seems to be dying out. I don't know what it is, but the way people behave, and I think that's a good and a bad thing in that ultimately, if people aren't self aware, then they're not going to recognize that they need to do work on themselves to become better people. On the flip side, if people do lack self awareness, they often wear their red flags like a parade. So they are easy to avoid.
Right. I also think it's like it has to go with the growing popularity of therapy. Like I feel like a lot of people weaponize therapy speak, and it's like they're entitled.
It's almost like therapy has become like a personality trait. And
Oh
the
yeah.
assumption is that if somebody is in therapy, that means they're a good person. And it's like, that's not the case.
Oh yeah, and it's like you always hear these women being like, they make these jokes like, "Oh yeah, men will do anything except go to therapy." Except I don't think therapy helps them that much. You know what I mean? I don't. I think a lot of men go to therapy and they're like, "Okay, this is just another tool for me to manipulate women with," and it's very easy to do because women fall for this shit. They're gonna think that I sound self-aware and enlightened because I'm using this therapy speak language, but really, it's a way for me to dodge accountability. It's a way for me to be entitled. It's a way for me to extract emotional labor from this woman without having to do anything in return. Because if she asks me to do something, I'm just gonna be like, well, my therapist says, and like you're asking a lot of me, and it's like gaslighting, and oh, my mental bandwidth and boundaries, and this is how much I can give, and you know what I mean? Like they'll use it as justification to not have to do shit. You know what I mean? They'll do the exact opposite of what therapy is supposed to be, where it's like, I'm entitled to all of this woman. Like, for example, like they'll ask for exclusivity, but for them it means, no, I mean, you should be exclusive with me. I don't need to be exclusive with you. And you asking me to be exclusive with you is a violation of my boundaries. Because I believe that love is meant to be shared with everyone. And that's why I think you and I should get into a polyamorous relationship. And it's like, what? How did you do this? And it's like, well, my therapist says, and they'll triangulate you with this imaginary therapist that they're probably not even seeing. They'll be like, well, Linda says that I should probably open up our relationship, even though we've only been dating a month, to another person. Don't let yourself get manipulated by these therapy men. Therapy doesn't mean shit. I'm telling you, whatever people say, always look at their actions. It doesn't matter what they say, their actions will tell you everything.
100%. So yeah, so in terms of developing that sense of self-awareness and also spotting in other people, it's I think it's good to be introspective. So journaling is really good for that as well. And therapy, if you are open to being dissected and discussing where your thoughts, behavior patterns actually come from. Therapy isn't for everybody, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but you do have to be ready, I think, to be honest and accountable in therapy if it's going to have the impact that it's supposed to have, because ultimately your therapist only relies on what you're telling them. And if you lack self-awareness and you're not telling them the full scope of what's going on, they're limited in how they can support you. A key thing with self-awareness as well is your friendship group. So I cultivate a friendship group that we give each other honest feedback. I'm not a friend to blow hot smoke up your ass if I think that what you're doing isn't a good idea, and I'll always say why. I mean, I'll always be supportive of my friend regardless, but I'll say what needs to be said, and I expect my friends to do the same with me as well. And this is why it's really important. We'll do an episode on this actually, also to level up your friendship group as well. Don't make friends with people who are perpetual victims or people who basically have defeatist attitudes in life, because that will also drag you down as well.
It seeps into your life. And it was Maya Angelou who said, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. When you meet women who say, I have low self esteem, I am insecure, blah blah. Like a lot of people think that this is being vulnerable in this way is like an excellent thing. Like, oh, she's so self-aware, she's telling me all of her flaws. People also set you up for failure this way is what I've noticed. Like my like I'm not even kidding. Like last year I had a friendship breakup with someone who, and this was my lesson to learn. Like I'm going to share a time when I was stupid, where I had a lot of empathy and grace for this person because they were like uniquely traumatized and like they owned up to like a lot of their flaws, right? So I thought, okay, this is a good thing. This is a self-aware person who's like, I have low self-esteem, I'm insecure sometimes, blah blah. And initially I didn't think it was a big deal because it didn't like personally affect me and I didn't really see the ramifications of this. But as time went on in the friendship, like those things that she said were exactly why I stopped being friends with that person. Because eventually it's like, oh, she had low self esteem, so she lies about a lot of shit and she's kind of snide with what she says about you. Like she's not really happy for you. She's insecure, so like every single thing you say, even if it's neutral, sounds like an attack. You know what I mean? Like you set up a meeting with somebody else and like then you tell her, "Oh, we're going to meet at this time." She'll be like, "Oh, were you trying to like remove me from this outing? Did you not want me to be there?" And it's like this is such a neutral conversation. Like basically making a mountain out of a molehill, taking things extremely personally, just being all like we would play like card games or board games and then she'd be like, "Oh, you think I'm stupid?" And I'd be like, "What? We're playing Uno. How can I think you're stupid?" But like this is what I mean by like when people tell you early on that these are my big red flags and they say it like openly, don't make the mistake of thinking, "Oh, they're so self-aware."
Yeah, I was going to say, like, be careful with that because sometimes they say that almost to let themselves off the hook. So, when they do start acting shitty, they'll turn on and say, but I told you I was like this. And men do that an awful lot.
Men do that an awful lot, but I think that women in friendships do that too. So like again, a lot of these flaws are not gender specific, and I think that we do have to be a little bit more careful with women because again, I think women are uniquely more empathetic to other women because we understand what it's like to be women and we feel a lot more empathy. I definitely feel like my empathy has been manipulated a lot more when it came to my relationships and friends. Like I've learned a lot of hard lessons in friendships specifically because I was so much more lenient with women than I ever was with men. I always knew with men there was like a 1% chance it could wind up really bad for me. So I always like walked out before shit got too bad. Again, I'm very different in this way. Maybe all women aren't like this, but especially with women, I had a blind spot. And I think it's very important to recognize when you have that blind spot where you're more likely to be taken for a ride, more likely to feel empathetic because the other person is a woman. And women can be in this way, like, especially in friendships, like, you can feel just as neglected because with this friendship it was so one-sided. Like I was expected to do all the emotional labor and like that person did not want to be on a phone with me listening to anything that I was going through. And like that was the only way I could continue having this friendship. Like I even noticed in phone calls with her, like she would drift off and not be focused on the conversation unless I could bring it back to her in some way. So there's like a selfishness that comes with also, you know what? I don't know if you know the actress Jemima Kirk. Like there was many years ago, somebody had like posted something on her Instagram stories, and she was like, "What should I do? Like I feel like I don't look that good, and I feel like, what advice do you have for people with low self esteem?" And she's like, "I think you think too much about yourself." And I think it's so true. I think a lot of people with low self esteem, like they're very self centered in a strange way. They're very obsessed with how other people perceive them to the extent that they can't be good friends to other people. You know what I mean? Because their entire identity is, woe is me. I have low self esteem. I can't be as beautiful as you. I can't be as rich or smart or talented as you. And initially, it sounds like self deprecating and that you're going to be in this like apology tour of like, no, but you're beautiful. And like, once you go in that position of being like, no way, you're so hot. What do you mean? Just recognize that's going to flip on you. Because right now it's I'm sucking all of your sympathy. And also I've realized it's a bad idea to be friends with people who want you to be sympathetic towards them all the time. It's not an equal friendship.
Yeah.
You can't have an equal friendship. You can't have an equal friendship with someone who wants you to feel sorry for them. And when you stop feeling sorry for them and you're like, you know what? I've started to realize this person has a pattern of bad relationships, can't maintain friends, is constantly blowing up at people. And then when you have boundary with them or when you call them out on their shit, this is what I mean about emotionally mature people. They get defensive. And then suddenly all that bullshit they told you about how insecure they were and how like their low self-esteem is all that shit that they drag into conversation with you, being like, you took advantage of me and you violated my boundaries and you knew I had low self-esteem and you should have had the boundaries for me. You should have made those boundaries for me. You should have recognized from my tone I didn't want to do that. It's like, no, you have an obligation to tell people what you like. And this, I'm saying women need to start being stronger about saying no in general. You need to stop expecting other people to read your mind and be like, oh yeah, you should know based on how my very ambiguous tone that I don't want to do something. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't want to go out with your friends, for example, and like a friend is dragging you out and you go, you don't get mad at her the next day. Be like, you should have known from my tone I don't want to go out. It's your job to enforce boundaries. A lot of people don't want to be disliked, and I think that's why they don't want to have boundaries. They're like, if I have a boundary, I'm going to lose this relationship, this person is going to dislike me, I'm not going to get what I want. What if you start seeing it as, I'm having boundaries because I'm going to develop a better relationship with this person, they're going to have more respect for me because I stand up for myself, and I'm going to get what I want, which is maybe I don't want to go out that night.
And developing boundaries means you have a better relationship with yourself as well.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you can start small. You can start with, I love you but no. I love you, but no is like my go to response with my friends. I love you, but absolutely no. That sounds like not something I want to do. That way they know I still like them. I just don't want to do that. If you're afraid that people will think, oh, they'll think I don't like them because I don't want to go out with them. Nope. I always tell people I love you, but no, today is a day for me with my cats and my books. But tomorrow, next week, that sounds like a good time. You know, if a friend tells me, let's go hiking in Alaska, I'm going to be like, I love you, but absolutely no. I don't want to do that.
No.
Let's go on a cruise. Nope. Don't want to do that. Learn to say no for small things. Like, people have struggled with saying no at like restaurants when they get the wrong order. Like, they don't want to send back the wrong order. They don't want to, if somebody made a mistake, they ordered a cappuccino, they got a latte. It's like, oh, I don't want to make a fuss. Start with small stakes and build your way up. If you're a person who's like, I lack boundaries and this is really affecting my romantic relationships because it's so hard for me to say no to men, start saying no to low stakes people. Start saying no to people where there's like no chance of anybody getting offended, like at a restaurant or a grocery store. You have to start to learn to say no in general to people. Stop letting people be emotional vampires and taking your time and your life away. You only get this one life. You know, you got like, what, 80 summers, 60 summers, depending on how old you are. You have like 60 summers left. You want to squander that making concessions for people and apologies for people? No.
And also, it's a muscle. So, emotional maturity is like going to the gym where you develop muscles and your endurance. You practice these things. It's something that is a lifetime process, but it's very rewarding once you get there as well. So, yeah, I completely agree, Diana. The next axis is empathy. Now, we know men struggle with this a bit, but empathy is about understanding and valuing the feelings and perspectives of others, especially if you haven't been through it before. And I think that's a common thing that people miss, is that people don't seem to want to understand where people are coming from unless they themselves have been through it. That's not empathy, that's more sympathy or being able to relate to somebody.
I was just going to say, don't mistake sympathy for empathy.
Yeah. And a way to develop that is to listen more than you talk, essentially, because oftentimes we often listen in conversations to respond. We're not actually listening to what the person is saying. And I think our conversational style has meant that it's almost instant, right? As somebody is talking now, we're thinking about how we're going to respond to what they're saying. But actually, it's okay to just take it in, take what the person is saying in, and for there to be a gap or a pause in between responses. In the meantime, you can validate their feelings as opposed to thinking about how you're going to respond or somehow making what they've said about you as well. And also, I think that reading really, really good fiction or emotionally rich stories, so I'm starting to read The Lord of the Rings, like the actual books, it's actually a really good way of developing different perspectives, because the movies give you quite a, how do I say it? They give you quite a definitive outcome, but actually Tolkien, I'm not saying you should all read Tolkien, by the way, because the books are really thick, but Tolkien developed a legendarium basically, and there are so many axes to the characters. If you read like the backstory of most of the characters involved, it just gives you a different perspective. Even Sauron, for example, he wasn't always this evil, malevolent force in Middle Earth. He was actually a good person until he fell. So it's just giving you that different perspective. And also not thinking in a dichotomous way as well. I think given the fact that we are being fed so much information on social media, is very easy and tempting to put things into black or white, either good or bad. Like, this person is either good or they're cancelled, and that's it. Like, we don't give people grace.
No nuance, Nelly. It's just like binary thinking.
Exactly. And I think that also, I think emotionally mature people, they understand nuance as well. They understand that people are complex.
Exactly. And I think that that becomes really important when you make connections with people, and when you're listening to the way that they speak about their own lives. It's very, one of the things I have to say, like early on in the podcast when I used to listen to the three of you, I always picked up on you the most because I noticed that you listened a lot. And like what I've recognized about people who are good listeners is they always have something insightful to say, and because they're able to draw the room in more effortlessly, because people wait to hear what they have to say, because like your words have meaning and value. I think it's really important for people to recognize that. When you spend more time listening than speaking, you learn so much about other people. You learn so much about what's important to them. And I mean, we said this even with men, right? Like on dates, like spend more time listening than talking.
Yes, because they hang themselves. They will hang themselves unprovoked. You don't have to go with the Spanish Inquisition. The best way for a man to cut himself out of the running or to reveal about himself, let him talk. Just let him talk and just listen.
Exactly. And usually, like a lot of men have told me in first dates and stuff that I'm very terrifying. And I'm like, good. Because I was just listening. And the funny thing is, I do it in the most neutral way.
I've had that with men as well. I've had that with men as well. They'll say like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so." Because I remember I was on a shift with a guy. We were doing a night shift, and he somehow, and we just met basically. And by the end of the shift, 12 hours, he basically told me all about his life and how he cheated on his wife and how he was stringing along his girlfriend. He wanted to get married and he didn't, but he didn't want to tell her. And then at the end, he was like, "I feel so exposed. Like I didn't do anything. I just sat there and listened, and you just spilled your guts. Like I literally didn't do anything."
And the crazy part is, like, they always try to flip it on you in some way where it's like, I've had that with people as well, where people are like, "Oh, you came off so intimidating. I was so scared of you when you were first around." And I was like, "I said nothing though. I said nothing. All I did was look. I was intentionally listening to everything you were saying. I was definitely scrutinizing everything in my brain, but I didn't really say." And the funny thing is, they're like, "Oh, I thought you didn't like me when you first met me." And I was like, I always have to point out to them, I'm like, I just met you. I don't know you. Why would I hate you? That would be ridiculous. Can you imagine how insane it is that I determined from a course of 30 minutes that I hate your guts? Unless you're like skinning puppies and participating in an ethnic cleansing. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not going to have a strong opinion on you. Like, I don't even like you. I don't know that I hate you. Like, the idea of like extremes, right? Like, either you love me a lot or you hate me. Like, extremely binary thinking when you meet a stranger as well. Like, are they appropriate with a stranger? Like, when you're on a first date, you are strangers to each other. Anybody who's like, "Oh, I think you don't like me," based on what did you say that would make me not like you? Are you aware of what you said that made.
Oh, exactly. And also, are you telling on yourself as well? Are you thinking that if you reveal yourself, that I won't like you? Is that a tell?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm really friendly. I'm not even like a person who comes across as no, you know what? Actually, that's a lie. I'm scary. I get it. I was like, "No, what am I saying? What am I saying? That's bullshit." Yeah, no, I'm a scary person. I get it. I get it. I just have a low threshold for. I'm old, okay, guys. I have a low threshold for this shit. The older you get, like it's so true. Like as the years go on, like the days may be long, the years are short, and I realize with every fleeting year, I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to waste a second spending time, spending even an hour with a person I can't stand. And I think it's very hard for me to hide when I dislike someone. But truth be told, like I never dislike anyone from meeting them from the first time. So anybody who's coming at you with that energy of like, "I thought you disliked me," it's like, all I was doing was listening. I thought you wanted an active audience. But a lot of them, I think they do feel exposed because they realize they told you too much. And the funny part is, it can be so easily mitigated by just asking your date questions. They would have known so much more about me had they matched my energy and had they asked meaningful questions about me. Like I asked them so many questions, it's like I'm a journalist and I'm interviewing a subject. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like it's an equal thing. Like I feel like they're on my talk show or something. It's like, and now back to you, even though it's been about you for the last 45 minutes. Like you have to watch what men say. But I think also when you pay attention to what people say in general, you'll learn a lot about them. And the people I respect the most are people I've noticed who listen a lot. And then when they do have something to say, it's always so insightful. And I have to say, Savannah, that was one of the things I noticed about you in the earlier podcast when I used to listen to it. I was like, I just get so excited when you would say things because also you were a history nerd like I was. So I was like, oh my God, yes, history is going to come into play. And I do think that also, I will say it's a cultural thing. American culture in general is just like very chatty. They love to talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to
Yeah.
talk too, but I do think I'm like an anomaly in my culture. Like Americans love to talk.
They love to chat. They love to chat. And I used to really struggle with that when people are like, Savannah, talk more. I'm like, in England, you sort of just say what you need to say and then you shut up.
Yeah.
It's not really polite to just labour the point. And people who do labour the point, they end up being like that annoying person who doesn't shut up.
Yeah.
But I think British culture tends to be quite to the point and direct.
I used to get this like a lot when I was a kid from people because again, I grew up in a culture where women's voices are not heard that much. So if you're a woman that talks even an ordinary amount, they're like, "Oh my god, she's a mouthy bitch, and she just talks too much." So I got the talk too much shit a lot, but my father and my parents in general like never made me feel bad about being chatty. They were like, "Well, you're curious about other people. There's nothing wrong with that." So like I don't shy away from it now. I'm like, oh yeah, I am chatty, but I also do think I have something valuable to say. It's not like I'm talking smack. And if somebody is gonna be like, oh, you talk a lot, I'm gonna be like, and you don't have anything meaningful to say. What's worse?
Yeah.
I may talk a lot, but I think I speak sense. I stand by what I say and I speak with conviction. That's a lot more than a lot of women in my country are allowed to have. So I wield that privilege with might. And I think it's like yeah, I think it's important to recognize that there are certain cultures in which just being an outspoken woman is considered being a very talkative and like, oh, how dare she overstep? Doesn't she know she needs to be silent? And it's like, try to silence me. Come at me. Let's see. Come at me. Let's see. Not a lot of people can beat me in a verbal smackdowns. I'm pretty. I have pretty good self confidence when it comes to that. I'm like, you probably cannot beat me in a battle of words. So, my whole profession is using words, making words. So, I don't think that's going to be likely that they can cut me down to size on that one. But it's one thing I pay attention to because that if a man comes and tells me, "Oh, you talk a lot," or I got this a lot, like, "Oh, you're opinionated." Okay, should I have no opinions?
Again, telling on themselves. So the next one is accountability. We've spoken about it quite a bit in this episode, but recognizing it in yourself is that it's not the same as taking responsibility. It's not that at all. Think of accountability as almost like building your armor, right? So you know your weak points, you know where things have gotten to you in the past, where perhaps like there's been a mini death by a thousand cuts. Accountability, choosing to make different choices is like your armor against future attacks and protection. And accountability for a man also is really important. So when he makes a mistake, does he sincerely apologize? Isn't and an apology isn't I'm sorry you feel that way, or it's does he actually own his shit? Does he own what he did? And does he also reflect on his own role in his life, in your relationship, in your interpersonal conflicts as well? Because for to have a healthy relationship, you both need to be able to be accountable not only to each other but also to yourselves as well. And you'll very quickly become frustrated if you're in a relationship with somebody who lacks accountability. That is just the worst thing.
The other thing about like when you do have issues, is it an attack for him? Is it like, oh, I need to win the problem versus like resolving things, right? Like, is it us against the problem or is it me against you? You need to watch out for you're either with me or against me. Is he George Bushing all over the place?
George Bushy.
You need to be with someone who is a proactive problem solver, but is also collaborative in their problem solving. It's how can we work on this together? How can I make you more comfortable? What's needed to be done? Can I take accountability for something that I've been overlooking? Like, again, I think we don't expect perfection from men because I have to say, like, because we've grown up in patriarchy, women and men are just as capable of internalizing misogyny in strange ways. And it's really important that you have partners who can pick that up and can point it out and be like, hey, I think this might not be helping you. And it's important for you to be able to do that with your partner as well and for them to not get defensive because I think that even if they're even the most well-intentioned man, he's going to have those flaws because we're all cooked the same soup. So there's really no escaping. Like if you're looking for perfection in a man and a man that's been untouched by patriarchy, he would have to be raised on another planet.
Yeah. To be fair, same with women as well. Like we also internalize patriarchy. Women, we also have our own issues as well. And that's not saying that we're as bad as men or that bollocks, but it's important to also be aware of our own blind spots. And like Diana said, not solely putting the blame at the feet of the patriarchy, because especially if you are a woman in a Western country, you have choices that a lot of other women don't have. So I think we need to do right by the women who've come before us and the women around the world who still don't have the ability to walk away from their piece of shit guy to do better.
Yeah, and it's really important that you don't internalize other people's problems into your own relationship. Like a lot of women, they'll put on weight and stuff, and then they'll have like women around them say, if you don't lose the weight, he's gonna dump you. And it's not to say that this doesn't happen, but if you have a partner that you can definitively say that, oh, this is not, he's attracted to me no matter what, like he thinks I'm hot even when I'm fucking ugly, and this is not an issue. Like, I had a friend who had this situation once where her partner was like obviously very attracted to her, but she had all these fears because all of these like family members and friends were like, "Oh, if you don't lose the baby weight, he's gonna dump you," and it affected her relationship because she was so paranoid that he would leave. And one day he just got fed up and he's like, "What the fuck is going on? Why are you being weird?" And she was like, "Because I'm afraid you'll leave me for the weight." And he's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "I've never found you hotter. You just had my baby. Why would I?" And so, like, that was a really reaffirming thing for the relationship when he was like, "There's nothing you can do that would make me think you're less hot." So you could just like ignore those people around you. Sometimes this is really important to understand that is your ecosystem, your circumstances, your environment supportive of you. If you're around people who have their own internalized misogyny, because like in this situation, it was the women that had that, right? It was the women that had internalized misogyny, and they were like, "There's no way that her partner will stay with her if this conventionally attractive woman puts on weight." And she didn't even have this fear, but now all these people have put this fear in her brain. And now she thinks that this is going to happen to her, right? And you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not actively getting ahead of the problem, right? And you're not like, you need to be sure of your partner as well. Like, is this the kind of guy who's going to do that? If he is, it's a different issue, right? But if he's not, you need to stop letting those issues that other people put on you. Like I always have people be like, "Oh, you don't want to cook." No guy is going to be into a girl who doesn't cook. No guy is going to be into a person who doesn't clean. I'm like, is he looking for a wife or is he looking for a service?
A cook. And I know so many men who, like, my mum didn't cook for years in her marriage, and my dad happily did it all. Didn't bother him. So yeah, it's just, and you bring a lot more to the table than just knowing how to cook as a wife and as a woman.
Oh yeah, but they always say, even in my family, they'll be like, my uncle does all the dishes in the household. I don't touch a dish because I get my nails done, and I don't like to. I'm being so real with you. I don't like ruining my. I don't like. I don't like ruining my nails. And like one time, my mom was like, "Why don't you take over for him?" And I was like, "I will if he pays me for the nails." You know what I mean? Because opportunity cost. You know what I mean? Like, I've destroyed money that I've spent washing those dishes that I don't want to do. So if he's willing to pay for my next manicure, then sure, I'll do the nails. My uncle is like, "No, I'll just do the dishes. I don't want to pay for her expensive ass manicures. No, thank you." Which is funny because he wound up doing them anyway. But that's what I mean. Like, I'm being silly here, but you know what I mean, right? At the end of the day, it's like, if that's who you are naturally, a guy is not going to be like, if you're never going to, you shouldn't be dating a guy who's like, "This is a deal breaker. I'm looking for a wife appliance who will service me when I need. You will fuck me when I want. You will cook for me when I need, and you will clean for me when I ask." And it's like, wrong. You're barking up the wrong vending machine, sir. Go to the other vending machine. I'm not that woman. Like, you're not going to get that from me. Why would I go to a Chinese restaurant and demand curry?
Exactly. So to finish off, we've got the final one is resilience. So being able to bounce back from challenges without bitterness, blaming, or denial. I'll be real, ladies. If you want to do this dating shit with men, you're going to need resilience and bucket loads, because a disappointment is not only guaranteed, but it will be frequent, probably swift, and at times relentless, depending on how you date, right? So being emotionally mature, it also means that you have the resilience and the stamina to withstand that, and don't allow the actions of shitty men or society telling you that you can't get the kind of man that you want. Don't allow that to get you down as well. Like, you have your standards, you have your frame, and you hold that.
And don't let a few bad occasions determine your worth either. Like, if a guy ghosts you, it's not because you're ugly. Like, don't internalize these like wrong messages from other people's shitty behaviors. So a lot of the times it's not about you.
It's not about you. And also, and I mean this the nicest possible way, like, a lot of women think that this guy treated me so badly, like I must have done something to deserve it. Like, in the nicest possible way, but you're not that special. Like, you didn't change him. That is who he is. And as I always say, if you have, and as the Are We Dating the Same Guy groups have demonstrated quite nicely, if a guy has treated you badly, show me all the other women he's been with, and I will tell you, and there will be a pile of bodies and a trail of destruction. It's not just you.
Exactly. It's really important that we don't internalize other people's, and this comes from childhood too. Like, this happens when you're a kid. If your parents are mean to you, you're like, "Oh, it's because I'm a bad kid. I'm not a good daughter."
No, it's because your parents are just not good people, and they weren't good people before they had you.
Yeah, they're flawed as hell.
Exactly. So
Other people's flaws are not an indication of your worth. That's the message we want to leave you with.
Exactly. Well said, Diana. So that wraps up. This will be the first in a series of different traits and characteristics that you can develop and also vet for as well in your dating journey. But let us know if you'd like us to cover anything in particular. I do have one announcement. So we have a bonus podcast that I'm sure some of you are subscribed to. And due to admin issues, and I won't get into the whole rigmarole now, but we lost access to that Patreon account. So a new Patreon has been set up called the Level Up Lounge that has all the historical bonus podcast episodes. And we're also looking to do blog posts, almost like the FDS forum, but in a more controlled environment because fuck credit. If I'm honest. So definitely please subscribe to that. I will drop the link in the show notes below, but it will be lovely to see you at the Level Up Lounge. There will be blog posts, there will be live chats, and also the opportunity for you to send in your question or problem, and we will read it and answer it in a future episode, as well as like the bonus content with Patricia and I as well. So it'll be really great to see you over at the Level Up Lounge.
Yay!
But yes, that is our episode today. Thanks so much for listening, Queens, and for all you emotionally immature scrotes out there.
Die mad.
Die mad. See you next week.